The first signal did not come as a whisper, nor as a threat from the stars, but as a desperate scream, an alien SOS that tore across the dark like a wound opened in the fabric of night. It washed over Earth's deep space monitors in a wave of distorted language, frantic pulses, and a final broken plea that no translator could fully decode. But every scientist who listened understood the tone. Fear. Helplessness. And something else buried beneath it, utter despair. For months, humanity had looked outward with caution, unsure whether first contact would come as a gift or a blade. But no one expected a distress call. No one expected someone out there to beg us for help. The first decoded fragments arrived 2 hours later. A shattered star system. A colony world burning. A predator species, old as dust, sweeping through the void with an appetite for civilizations. A final message carved with trembling intent: they are coming. Earth's governments erupted into arguments, councils, and whispered war room debates. Some demanded caution. Others demanded silence. Yet the message pulsed relentlessly on every screen, every feed, every late-night broadcast, a countdown to something approaching. A mirror held up to humanity's own past fears, but the turning point came not from generals or politicians. It came from the astrophysicist who first detected the SOS, a young woman named Dr. Vance, who stepped in front of cameras with a trembling voice and said the words that ignited the world. If someone out there is begging us for help, it means two things. First, they believe we can fight back. And second, they believe we are not like the monsters chasing them. Her words spread like wildfire. Across the planet, military fleets accelerated construction. Orbiting factories ran through the night. Humanity's finest engineers breathed life into ships that had never seen battle, their hulls gleaming with the hopes of billions. For the first time in generations, humanity unified under a single mission, not for conquest, not for territory, but for defiance. Still, the fear lingered. Because the SOS didn't just warn of a threat. It said something else, something darker. The predators were not coming for the alien race. They were following the trail of the message. Straight toward Earth, quietly, humanity prepared for war. Above the Pacific Ocean, the first dreadnought drifted into view, a colossal wedge of black alloy, humming with experimental reactors and untested weaponry. Its name etched in silver along its side, ISS Vanguard. The first ship built not to explore, but to protect. In the shadows of shipyards and orbital rings, pilots ran simulations that pushed the boundaries of sanity. Engineers whispered prayers into the metal they forged. Civilians stared upward at the streaks of construction lights across the sky, feeling a mixture of dread and pride tightening in their chests, night after night. The SOS continued. Growing weaker. Shallower. As though the sender was fading, and then, one evening, the signal fractured mid-transmission. Static devoured the alien voice. The final sound was a single, barely audible whisper. Not a word, but a breath. A farewell. Humanity realized that the species who had called them was likely already gone. The silence that followed was heavier than any threat. And in that silence, something ancient stirred inside the human spirit, the knowledge that even if they were late, even if they never met the ones who begged for help, the predators still needed to face consequences, because humanity had heard their victims cry, and humanity would answer. The first fleet assembled above Earth, 50 warships, thousands of crew, weapons glowing like newborn stars. Engines roared, tearing open the night as they prepared to leave orbit. Humanity had never struck first. The engines ignited with a thunder that rolled across continents, shaking oceans and cities alike as humanity's first interstellar war fleet tore free from Earth's gravity. The night sky bloomed with trails of blue fire, each ship a spear hurled into the dark. Billions watched from rooftops, windows, and broadcast screens, their breath held in collective silence as the fleet vanished into the void. Inside the Vanguard, the air trembled with anticipation. Metal thrummed under the weight of power coursing through its spinal reactors. Crew members stood at their stations, gazing at the shifting brilliance of faster-than-light space. No one spoke. There was no need. The mission was older than any order: follow the path of the SOS, find the predators, and end whatever darkness had swallowed a distant civilization. But beneath the resolve, quiet moments formed like drifting islands in the tide of war. Pilots stared at photos taped beside their consoles, families they had sworn to return to. Engineers rested with eyes closed, feeling the heartbeat of the ship beneath their hands. Even in the steel belly of humanity's greatest weapon, there was softness. Fear. Hope. All stitched together into something unbreakable. The trail of the SOS led them toward a region of space astronomers had once called the Veil Expanse, a shrouded gulf of nebulae where stars died in silence. As the fleet entered, luminous clouds swirled around their hulls like ghostly tides. Ion storms danced past the wings of escort ships, painting the darkness in streaks of electric silver. It was beautiful, eerie, and painfully quiet. Until it wasn't. The first debris field appeared without warning, a shattered world, broken into drifting continents of stone and molten metal. Artificial structures hung weightless, twisted into abstract sculptures of destruction. Small fragments glittered like tears of glass, remnants of cities. Dreams, lives that once thrived under alien suns. The fleet slowed. Not out of fear, but respect. Every drifting ruin felt like a voice frozen in silence. A reminder of why they had come. Sensors detected faint traces of the Predator's passage, scorch patterns along asteroid surfaces, weapon signatures unlike anything in humanity's databanks, atmospheric residues carrying microscopic traces of harvested biomass. A chill rippled through every vessel, a silent understanding that they were now hunting something ancient, efficient, and merciless. Far ahead, a dim flicker pulsed. A single distress buoy, barely functional, whispering the last recorded memories of the fallen world. The Vanguard intercepted it. A holographic projection sputtered to life in the command deck, an alien city burning under a storm of metallic tendrils. Beams of light carved through spires as shadowed shapes descended from orbit. No faces. No bodies. Only shifting masses of obsidian alloy, like living machines sculpted by nightmares. The predators didn't invade. They consumed. As the recording dissolved into static, silence fell again, but something else lingered: coordinates. A path carved into the stars by the dying. A final gift. Or a final warning. The fleet pushed onward, hours stretched into days. Days blurred into the timeless haze of deep space. Along the way, ships detected traces of battles fought and lost, ripped apart vessels. Hollowed moons, artificial rings snapped like brittle bones. Each ruin whispered the same story. The predators moved in one direction, carving a line of devastation across the galaxy. Toward a cluster of stars far beyond. One evening, as the Vanguard drifted through an especially dense nebula, an object drifted across their path. A small pod, ancient, scorched, barely holding together. Its hull bore the same symbols as the alien SOS. A retrieval team brought it aboard. Inside, they found a single survivor, not alive, not truly dead, suspended in a stasis gel. The alien's body was cracked with crystalline fractures, as though the void itself had taken bites from its flesh. Yet its eyes opened when they approached, dull, fading, but filled with a sorrow so deep it was almost the same as love. A whisper escaped its trembling mouth, a word humanity's translator struggled to process. Not a warning, a plea: run. Then the alien's light flickered out forever. For a long moment, no one on the Vanguard breathed, because the plea wasn't meant for the alien's own species, it was meant for us. And still, humanity did not turn back. The nebula thinned into a starless gulf, a region so dark it felt carved out of existence. Sensors dimmed. Instruments struggled. Even the ship's internal light seemed to hesitate, as though the void beyond the windows pulled at every photon. This was no natural darkness. It was the wake of something vast. The fleet pressed on, engines whispering through the emptiness. Every soul aboard felt it, the sensation of being watched by an intelligence that did not breathe, did not sleep, and did not care for the distinction between living and dead. far ahead, the first sign appeared. A sphere of fractured metal the size of a city, drifting without rotation. Its plates curled inward like petals of a dying flower. Scorch marks stretched across its surface in claw-like patterns, each gouge deeper than battleship armor. When the fleet's scanners probed the structure, the data rippled with static, as though the ruins still remembered the scream of whatever destroyed it. A boarding team drifted through its ruptured hull. Inside, the corridors warped and melted into one another, as if the station itself had liquefied under impossible heat. Not a single body remained, yet the walls were etched with millions of tiny holes, each one perfectly round, as if something had delicately extracted every trace of organic matter. Even memories felt stripped from the air. The fleet moved away in silence. As the darkness deepened, the SOS trail grew stronger, pulsing through space like a dying heartbeat. And then, suddenly, the void opened into a corridor of starlight. At its end waited a colossal structure orbiting a dim red sun, a fortress built from alloy plates. Spiked towers, and rotating rings of energy. Not alien. Not friendly. Something far older. Humanity had found the Predator's forward bastion. The fleet halted, their silhouettes scattered across the lightless expanse. Every ship powered down non-essential systems. Breath slowed. The stars felt cold. And then, movement. Hundreds of black shapes emerged from the fortress, silent and fluid, as if sliding out of the very shadows. Their forms were jagged silhouettes of shifting metal, limbs reconfiguring with each second. No thrusters. No heat signatures. They simply glided, defying physics with a grace that made the heart twist. The Predators had seen them. The first wave accelerated with terrifying speed. The fleet lit up with energy signatures, weapons charging, shields flaring. The void exploded into color. Plasma beams carved through darkness. Kinetic slugs streaked like meteors. Missiles blossomed into white suns. The battle began with a violence that shook the soul, but the Predators adapted instantly. Their bodies reformed mid-flight, splitting, merging, spiking into shapes tailored to devour incoming fire. They slipped between weapons like smoke. One slammed into the hull of a destroyer and liquefied half its structure in seconds, the ship collapsing inward like a crushed can. A cry went out across comms, raw, desperate, but the fleet held formation. Humanity refused to break. The Vanguard surged forward, engines blazing. Its spinal cannon roared, unleashing a beam of white fire that punched through 3 Predators at once, scattering their remains as molten shards. But even as the crew cheered, the battlefield shifted. The shadows thickened. More shapes emerged from the fortress, hundreds, then thousands, forming an ocean of living metal. The fleet braced for annihilation, and then, from the edges of the star system, came a new signal. Weak. Freddy. Familiar, the original SOS, only this time, it carried coordinates, fresh ones. A location buried beneath the Predator's fortress. A hidden chamber pulsing with the last embers of an alien civilization. The signal's meaning was unmistakable. The aliens had left humanity a weapon, or a message, or a hope. The Vanguard turned toward the fortress, weapons drained. Shields flickering. Crew trembling, but the ship advanced, carving a path through the swarm with fire and will alone. Humanity had come too far to turn away now. The Vanguard led the fleet through the swarming Predators, cutting a path of white-hot fire and scorched metal. Every strike was calculated, every evasive maneuver precise. The void around them shimmered with the heat of destroyed ships, fragments tumbling in slow arcs, reflecting distant red light like shards of shattered stars. Humanity's fleet moved as one living organism. Engines pulsing in rhythm, weapons singing in deadly harmony. Ahead, the fortress loomed larger, a monstrous silhouette against the dying sun. Its rotating rings emitted low-frequency pulses that rattled the hulls of the approaching ships. The Predators surged from every angle, some slamming into vessels with the force of moons, others dissolving into black mist and reappearing behind shields. Yet the fleet pressed on, unbroken, inside the fortress, corridors twisted like serpents. Energy lines pulsed along the walls in patterns incomprehensible to human eyes, feeding the predators' systems with impossible power. Surveillance drones, sleek and jagged, darted outward to meet the intruders. Every moment in the shadows felt alive, as if the fortress itself was conscious and hungry. Humanity's fleet encountered resistance unlike anything they had imagined, machines that anticipated movement before it happened, predators that could heal mid-combat, structures that could collapse and reform around them. The vanguard surged into the outer ring. Its cannons fired in precise bursts, carving gaps through the enemy ranks. Smaller ships darted through the breaches, striking at weak points, tearing open doors, and exposing interior chambers filled with dormant energy cores. Inside one core, faint traces of the SOS species technology glimmered, a lattice of crystalline conduits and pulsing nodes that seemed to respond to the presence of humans. Instruments went wild, scanning, decoding, interpreting. Something ancient and powerful stirred, the predators struck back with ferocity. Entire destroyers vanished in explosions of light and energy, ripped from the fleet by tendrils of shifting metal. But humanity adapted. Pilots altered trajectories mid-flight, engineers rewrote targeting protocols on the fly, and weapons recalibrated in seconds. Even the Vanguard's spinal cannon evolved its firing pattern, slicing through shapes that should have been impervious. Every human mind aboard the fleet moved as one, connected through instinct, fear, and unyielding will. Deep within the fortress, an enormous chamber opened, walls lined with the SOS species' intricate machinery. At the center floated a sphere of glowing energy, rotating slowly, humming with a resonance that felt like life itself. It pulsed with memory, intelligence, and intent. The signal from earlier converged here, faint echoes of desperation now forming clarity. This was the core. The heart. Perhaps a weapon. Perhaps salvation. Perhaps both. The fleet circled the chamber. Sensors detected a field of energy unlike anything catalogued, capable of disintegrating matter or rewriting it. The predators surged to defend it, black forms twisting in impossible shapes, their movements faster than thought. Every strike against them was repelled with uncanny precision. Yet the humans did not falter. Pilots dove into the swarm, sacrificing speed and safety for perfect shots. Engineers on board rerouted power to shields, then weapons, then life support, orchestrating a symphony of survival. And slowly, piece by piece, gaps formed, the sphere pulsed brighter, responding to proximity, to intent, to defiance. It whispered, not in words, but in resonance that touched every mind aboard the Vanguard. It offered choice. It offered power. It offered the means to turn the tide of this battle, and perhaps the war itself. A sudden surge of predators attacked in unison, a wave meant to crush the fleet in one strike. Shields flared, engines strained, and weapons unleashed torrents of energy. Yet the humans stood firm, every member of the fleet refusing to yield. The sphere reacted. Its light expanded outward, bathing the battlefield in iridescent brilliance, interfering with the predators' forms, disrupting their cohesion, creating openings that no strategy alone could have achieved. The fortress shuddered. Black metal walls cracked, twisted, and fell away. The predators screamed in soundless fury, dissolving under the combined force of human precision and alien resonance. The path to the sphere opened, a corridor of light leading directly to the chamber's heart. Humanity had broken through. The chamber stretched into impossible dimensions, walls dissolving into light and geometry that defied human perception. The sphere hovered at its center, radiating waves that rippled through the very fabric of space. Its glow bathed the fleet in colors unseen, a symphony of energy that hummed through every hull, every console, every nervous heartbeat. Humanity had reached the nexus, the place where the SOS species had tried to leave a mark on the universe, a message or a weapon, or perhaps both. The predators converged in a final desperate assault, black shapes merging into massive forms, their combined mass twisting into spires of living metal. They moved faster than thought, striking with coordinated violence that shredded ships and tore open shields. Explosions rippled through the void, lighting the chamber in harsh, flickering bursts. Still, the humans advanced, weaving through the chaos with instinct honed by months of relentless pursuit. Pilots dove into gaps too narrow for the predators to follow, slamming their ships against energy cores to overload them. Engineers rerouted power through emergency conduits, igniting weapons that no one had dared fire before. Across the fleet, every human being moved as if one organism, synchronized in courage, fear, and the unyielding determination that had carried them this far. The sphere pulsed stronger with every act of defiance. Its resonance harmonized with the human will, amplifying precision, accelerating repairs, stabilizing shields. The predators screamed in mechanical rage as openings tore through their ranks. Ships that had been on the verge of collapse surged forward, delivering strikes that shattered enemy forms into drifting shards. Humanity was no longer merely fighting, they were orchestrating the battlefield itself. Inside the chamber, the sphere began to rotate faster, its surface fracturing into streams of light that formed intricate patterns. Symbols, energy pathways, and sequences of power danced before human eyes, readable in instinct and understanding rather than language. The core was alive, sentient perhaps, aware of the presence before it, choosing to respond to those who had shown courage, precision, and a refusal to bow. The predators sensed the shift. They screamed through the void, bodies convulsing and separating as if the light itself burned them from within. Black forms evaporated into motes of metal and energy, dissolving where once they had been formidable. The fleet pressed on, using the sphere's resonance to guide attacks, anticipating movement, striking before the predators could even act. At last, the path to the heart of the sphere was clear. Boarding pods detached from the vanguard, slipping through energy fields as the fleet suppressed remaining threats. The chamber seemed endless, yet the sphere drew them closer, pulsating with rhythm like a living heartbeat. The air, or what passed for it in the void, felt alive with memory, sorrow, and unfulfilled purpose. Humanity approached, not with fear, but with reverence, knowing that the culmination of this mission was at hand. The first officer extended a hand toward the sphere. It shimmered, rippling against contact but not recoiling. The resonance surged through the fleet, filling every mind with clarity, with strategies, with knowledge of systems and weapons, of energy flows and weaknesses. The sphere had chosen humanity as its inheritor, its instrument, its message to the universe. In its light, the void no longer felt hostile. It felt like a challenge, a gauntlet thrown, a test to see who would rise. From the depths of the predator's fortress, the remaining black forms rallied for one final strike. Yet hesitation had crept into their movements. The sphere's energy radiated outward, warping reality around them, bending physics, rewriting the battlefield. Humanity had become the pivot, the axis upon which the balance of this war now turned. A sudden surge of energy pulsed outward, engulfing the chamber. Predators screamed as their forms disintegrated, leaving only drifting shards. The fleet's hulls quivered under the resonance, yet every ship survived, stronger and faster. Humanity had harnessed the SOS gift, transforming desperation into power, fear into strategy, and chaos into order. The sphere's light dimmed, settling into a steady, radiant glow. It was no longer a mystery. No longer a threat. It had become a tool, a weapon, a testament. Humanity's fleet floated within it, triumphant yet humble, bathed in a brilliance that spoke of promise, of hope, and of the indomitable spark that refused to be extinguished. The fortress trembled as the sphere's light radiated outward, spreading across the shattered walls and crumbling towers. Energy rippled through the structure, resonating with a force that seemed to undo the predator's very essence. The remaining black forms convulsed, twisted, and then exploded into drifting fragments, leaving the void eerily silent. The fleet hovered, engines idling, shields flickering, as the enormity of the victory settled over them. The SOS sphere pulsed once more, slower now, as if breathing. Data streamed through every ship's systems, translating into strategies, weapon designs, and navigational charts far beyond human knowledge. The fleet absorbed it, every mind and machine aligned with a purpose that stretched beyond survival or revenge. Humanity had been entrusted with understanding, with power, with responsibility. The predators were gone, but the lesson remained. The universe was alive, vast, and indifferent, but those who refused to yield could carve their own place within it. The vanguard led the fleet toward the chamber's exit. Outside, the fortress had begun to collapse under the destabilized energy. Spires bent, rings shattered, and molten metal rained outward, glittering like falling stars. Humanity moved with it, weaving through the debris with precision, pulling survivors, salvaging vessels, and ensuring no fragment could threaten other systems. The Predator's dominion had ended, and for the first time, humanity stood unchallenged in this quadrant of the void. Above the ruins of the fortress, the fleet paused. Stars beyond the nebula glimmered, distant suns beckoning exploration and vigilance. The sphere's glow remained steady within the vanguard, a beacon of knowledge, a reminder of what had been earned. Humanity had struck first, not out of hunger, but out of duty, compassion, and defiance. They had answered the SOS of a species long lost, punished the predators, and claimed a fragment of the cosmos as a testament to resilience and ingenuity. Throughout the fleet, quiet reflection filled the decks. Pilots leaned against consoles, exhausted yet exhilarated. Engineers traced circuits, ensuring stability in every system. Commanders reviewed the data streaming from the sphere, understanding that the next battles, if they came, would demand more than courage. They would demand unity, intellect, and the relentless heart of humanity. Every eye turned toward the horizon, knowing the universe was vast, threats were endless, but so too was the potential of a species that refused to bow. The journey back to Earth would take months, but every soul aboard felt the shift within themselves. Humanity had proven its worth, not through conquest, but through choice. Through action. Through defiance when the void had seemed absolute. The SOS signal had called them, the predators had challenged them, and humanity had risen, blazing across the stars with the fury and pride of a species unwilling to be forgotten. The Vanguard's engines ignited one final time, carrying the fleet away from the ruins, leaving nothing but the fading glow of the defeated fortress and the remnants of predators scattered across the void. The SOS sphere pulsed gently in the command deck, a silent companion to those who had borne witness to its legacy. Humanity had learned, had grown, had claimed the light in a darkness that had no mercy.